Hello, in this video I'd like to show you how to manipulate objects in edit mode. So when you first open a Blender, you probably get the cube, the standard cube. So let's first delete the cube. So one way to delete the cube is to select. If it's not select, I press A to deselect. In case it's not selected yet, you come and right click over the cube and then press X and confirm the delete. Okay, so how do I bring a new object to the scene? So you can either use the add menu here and then bring whatever object you are willing to bring, or you can press Shift A and basically leads to the same menu. One thing that I should mention is that the object will be brought wherever the 3D cursor object is located. So the 3D cursor object is this cursor here, and it goes wherever you left click. So in Blender, different of the most softwares, you don't select with the left click. Left click is to place the 3D cursor at least on this 3D view. There are other things that you select using the left click. For instance, on the panels you'll be using the left click for actually selecting and clicking things. Like I can select this check mark here by using the left click. I agree that's not very consistent, but that's the way is being for, I think, since the beginning, as far as I know. Anyways, so if you want to bring the cursor to the very center, you can press Shift C. Shift C brings the 3D cursor to the very center of your scene. Alright, so and now you can go and press Add, Mesh. Let's, for example, bring UV sphere. So the UV sphere is already placed, and one thing that I'd like you to notice is that in the left panel, by the way, if the left panel is not yet open, you can press D, or you can come here and press this plus sign here. Okay, all right. So when you first place an object, you have the opportunity to change some default values. So let's say I don't want the 32 segments, so I'd like less. Let me zoom in and you'll be more clear what I'm talking about. So instead of 32, let's say I want only maybe 16. And one thing that you may notice is, generally speaking, this kind of component here, object here, in the graphic user interface, you can use in many ways. You can increase gradually, incrementally, or decrease by clicking, using the left mouse click on over those arrows. You can left click and drag, so you can use like a slider, or you can double click and add the numeric value, let's say 16, and press enter. Okay, remember to always press enter. Sometimes we are tricky because you think we press enter and accept it, and if you click in another component, another widget, it will not sometimes work, most of the times. And for this particular object, we can also change the rings. So let's say I just want 8 rings, and you can also choose the size, and you can also choose the location. So let's say this will be eye. I'm trying to create an eye for a character. So let's press 1 to bring the frontal view. Let me zoom out because it's completely outside the scene. And now I'd like to rotate this on this red axle, which is the X axle. So let's pretend we want to rotate 90 degrees on X. So you can come here on X, double click, and say 90, enter, and there you go. We have now the object the way we want. Just be sure that you do everything you want before you do any, you select another object or do any, transformation in this object, because this opportunity is unique. Once you do any manipulation, it will be gone. So for example, if I come here and just move a little bit, you see that is gone. You cannot change anymore. You can still go and edit and change manually, but the primitives will be changing the primitives of the object will be gone. All right. So, and for each different kind of object, so let's say I want to bring now another object. The cursor is already on center, but if it's not, remember, you can press, let's say it's here, you can press Shift C, and the cursor is placed in the center of the scene. So at this time, instead of pressing A, add here, I will press Shift A, and then bring my, let's say, my torso. Where is the torso? Anyways, we have different options here, so you can change the number of the segments. Let me zoom in, and then we can see better. And there we go. So we can change the number of segments. We can also anyways, you can play with this and say, okay, I want to decrease the minor or increase, and it looks more like a tire here, now more like a ring or something like that. Anyways, I think you got the idea. That's the important, and so on. You can keep going and play with the other objects. All right. So let's go back. We don't need these anymore. Let's select this and bring closer, and let's play with this object in edit mode. Okay, edit mode, you get into either by selecting edit mode here, and you can see that the color is a little bit different, indicating that it's probably in a different mode. Or you can use tab toggles from the object mode to edit mode. One thing that I may not have yet covered: all hotkeys are context sensitive. I should say window frame sensitive. So if I press tab but the cursor is not over the 3D view, let's say the cursor is here, if I press tab, nothing happened, because the tab is just a hotkey for this particular window. Actually, it's even potentially dangerous, because if you're not in the correct window or correct panel, if you press the hotkey may mean a completely different command on where your cursor is located. So therefore, always pay attention if the cursor is where you want to be. All right. So let's tab. Now you are in edit mode, and initially everything is selected here. As we first learned when we were talking about selecting, deselecting objects, we learned that A selects everything or A deselect everything. So I will press A, and now we have everything deselected. All right. So let's play a little bit with the selection. It's very, very consistent with what we learned so far in terms of selection objects. Basically, we will be manipulating faces, vertices, and edges. Those are the three foundations of a mesh, and you'll be selecting what you want to select by using those three buttons. Okay, so right now what we have selected is vertices, and then to select a vertex, all you have to do is to press right click, and you can see that the 3D manipulator is placed, and it changes the color to yellow, right? And if you select another vertex, you can see that just goes. If I want to select multiple objects, it's very consistent what we learned so far. So you press shift, press the other vertex, and you can see that it keeps the others selected. If you wanted to deselect one particular one, oh sorry, I think I got an email. If you want to deselect one particular but keeping the others is still selected, you come and you press shift and right click. So in this case I have those three selected. The transformations are exactly the same. So let's say I want to translate those three vertices. I can come here, let's say 4, to give a shape more friendly. So shift right click. For some reason I don't have activated my keycast, so I press N to bring this. It's just a tool. This you don't need to. So if I start this now, you follow what I'm doing here. This is more just for instruction. So you let me increase the for 32 and press N again because you don't need this panel. So so let's come here, rotate a little bit, and if I come here and just grab, and you can see what happened when I translate vertices. First of all, you can see that this is exactly the same way we translate objects, and this will be for everything. I mean, for everything. I mean, for translation, rotation, and for scaling. So let's say if I come here now and scale, if I press S, I can increase the vertices went apart each other. Okay. Well, we may want to talk to reinforce selections. So let's do right now. I press A to deselect all, and let me select just to rotate around the selection to make easier my rotation. There you go, and zoom out a little bit and press A again. So nothing is selected. Let's review the options I have for selecting. So I can select in this select using right mouse click and using shift to keep or not. I also can press C. I can change the size of the area I will be selecting. So once I press now left click, I will be selecting everything where this circle passed through, right? If I want to deselect, I can press shift. I can hold the shift button and will be other way around. I'll be deselecting whatever the circle touches. I will be pressing right click to get off this mode, and you can also use B. Remember ABC. B. You select and drag with your left click, and everything inside the area you are selecting, once you let it go, you'll be selecting everything inside this area. Okay? If I want to deselect, it's the same idea. I can press B, I can uh, create one area, I press Shift and let it go. So that's the way I deselect vertices using the B command to create areas. Another way to select and deselect is using Control left shift, where I can create the lasso tool. Let's say I want to select those three, and I want to select those two here. So once I let it go, select it. If I want to deselect, let's say those two, I press Control, same thing, and before I let it go, I press Shift and let it go. Oh, it didn't work. So let's do again. Okay, it worked for me with Shift Control, but Shift Control for me, my Mauser driver reduced the sensibility. But anyways, Control left shift, sorry, Control left mouse click, and then I drag, and I press Shift and let it go. Okay, I think I understand now how it works. We have to press Shift Control before using the left click. Sorry, I don't use that much this lasso tool. That happens. All right. One thing that I also another option for selecting objects. So far we are selecting objects that is that we see in the first plane. However, sometimes you may want to select things that is behind and the area you don't see. So you have two options. You can switch this to the wireframe mode, and then you can see all vertices, including the ones that are behind. Let's say I press B and I select this entire area. You can see that even the vertices that are behind are now selected. Or one other option, so let's go back to the solid as it was before. And by the way, you can toggle between wireframe and solid by using Z or Z key. Okay, it's the same thing that come in here and do by using this control here. Another option is to press this widget here. You can see now it kind of try to represent just the faces closer to you will be selected, and if you press here you can see that everything has the same color, background color, indicating that you see. So this is almost like the wireframe. Actually, it's a mix of wireframe and solid. It's like an X-ray thing. So you can come here, let's press A to deselect everything. So if you come here and press C and select here, you can see that the vertices behind are being selected as well. All right. So what else? One thing that we haven't looked at, but it's basically the same thing, is when you want to select edges. So I press A, and I will press that is deselected this to make simple. And if you have edges selected, this control selected, every time you select something here, even if I come over vertex and press right click, I will be selecting the edges, right? And same thing, you can do whatever. You can come, you can say, okay, let's move this here. So all transformations you'll be applying, but you're applying the transformation over the entire edge or edges, because you can select multiple edges. Let's say shift right click, shift and right click. Now I have 3 edges selected. I can bring here, can come here, press G, and I can translate all 3 edges at the same time. Alright, same thing for S. If I size this, I can press R to rotate. So everything we learned so far applies to edges. Same thing for faces. So I can, let's pass this to face mode, and you can select faces. Same thing, right click, shift right click, shift right click. I can press S to size, resize, escape to abort. I can press R to rotate, and I can grab G. So those are the very foundation for modeling. So, and let's see my notes. We should talk about, I think, the proportional mode. So when you have something selected, is very straightforward. Let's say, let me go back to the vertex mode and select a single vertex here. Okay, vertex. Okay, that is vertex and vertices. Yeah, I get a little confused with this terminology. But anyways, so let me show. If I just grab this, you see that only the selected vertex is moving, and is moving very proportional to the mouse, right? It's almost 1-to-1, despite one lagging. It's a little lagging, but the distance is very consistent. Okay, all right. If I come here and select, if I enable the proportional editing, the first thing you notice is that now, if I press, let me zoom in, if I press G, you may find this new circle. And if you use your mouse wheel or plus and minus button, you may see you can change. So this is the influence area for a proportional grabbing. So let's say I have this very small, okay, and I, okay, grab. Okay, I think there is a bug here. Let me see. This circle was not supposed to be stuck here. All right. Grab. Okay. All right. Okay, I think I misunderstood because it's too small. Okay, now this is the area I'm affecting. If I increase the circle, note that I didn't let it go yet. Okay, you can see that other vertices are now being also affected. Okay, and so this is great, especially when we are manipulating organic shapes, because uh, this elastic thing is more for organic shapes, and you can change on the fly. So you haven't yet committed the command, and you can, you know, change the area. You can change it. You know, it's very nice to have this. In the past, we have some problems when we are using mirror um, uh, a modifier, but I think since the 2.67, I think it was fixed. Anyways, all right, and we can disable, of course, and so I think in terms of editing the objects is pretty much what I have shown so far. One thing that I'd like to show you is how you can merge objects. So I will press tab to get back to the object mode, or I can come here and go to object mode. So let's bring another object. So let's say add mesh. Let's try let's bring a cube. All right, and let's say I want this cube to be part of this object. I want to deal with only one object. Okay, so what you can do is to select both objects you want to join. So you press, the cube is already selected. I will press shift, right click. Now I have both selected, and I can come here, object, and say join, or I can just press Ctrl J. Okay, so now notice that they are only one object. Okay, if I go to edit mode, you can see that the vertices are all in edit mode. The vertices are all selectable in the same in the same object, so they are actually part of the same object. If you look at here, okay, let me give a quick introduction about this panel or menu or editor, whatever. It's called outliner. Yeah, outliner. It's the representation in hierarchy. Oh, that's the word. Okay, it's the representation with all objects that you have in this database for this scene or scenes. Okay, so in this case we have a sphere, and that's it. But let's Ctrl Z to go back. Let's bring again the cube. Okay, so now we have the cube and you have the sphere. Okay, and by the way, you are free to change names. Actually, it's a good idea to have different names. And how you change the name? You can either come here and let's call this my cube. You double click and say my cube, and I think I inverted the my caps lock is inverted anyways. And or you can come to the property panel here, tab, click in the object. So this is usually, not usually, but this is the object properties panel. Okay, you can also change it here. Let's fix using here instead of here. Okay, Okay, I want all the way around my cube. Enter. You can see that here it's also updated, right? So if I want the final object to be my cube, I select first this object, and now I select the final object, the target object, and I press Ctrl J or object join. So now we have a single object called my cube. Okay, that's the way you merge objects. Okay, and the same way you can split objects. Let's say I want to take this face here. Let me pass to face mode, select only this face, and let's say I want to separate this in another object. I can come here, mesh, and where is it? I think I have to go to the faces and then where is it? Or maybe, okay, it's under vertices. Vertices, despite I selected a face, this face, in other words, is selecting 4 vertices, right? So I can here and say separate by selection. Okay, and now another name was created here, and it's completely separate object. I'll press tab, and if I selected a new object, the object is here, but because the faces are touching the object so perfectly, it's hard to see. But if I selected the object here, you can see that I have separate objects. Okay, I have one object here, a second object, one single object here because we're merged, and this object that I just separate. Okay, the center of the object is a little off, but we can very quickly fix this or bring this to the object center by orange and say orange to center of mass. So now we have a separated object. You can now change the name. Let's say plane, either here or here. And I think that's it for what I had in mind for this video, and that's it. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.